All right. Pebble Beach Pro-Am, AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Matt, we've been meaning to get the podcast going for this season. We're finally getting it going for Pebble. Feels like the right time because
I
has
agree.
the PGA Tour season even started yet? I mean, at this
No, it
point,
hasn't. It's been the DP World Tour / the Corn Ferry Tour. So about time we waited till February rolled around, got our this is the start of the PGA Tour season because I think if we had the podcast earlier, we would have gotten the normal. Xander would have had a win,
mhm.
maybe something normal. So, this is a good time to start. I think we chose the right week.
Yeah, if a expected winner wins this week, it's because we started the podcast this week, and this
Correct.
1 month of debauchery that's taken place in the PGA Tour, we can say, was caused by the podcast not being started. And before we get into Pebble, just what is give me your take on what's happened over these first 4 weeks of the season? Obviously, outside 100-1 winners in all 4 weeks. Do you have a hot take for what's happening? Is this just golf? Like, what's going on here?
So basically anything less than triple digits, we can victory lap if that happens because we're starting the pod. So yeah, I don't know what to make out of it, but all of the people leaving for live, I talked about how that would just like dilute the PGA Tour. We'd get some more variance, but what we saw, no one could have predicted. I was thinking we'd see more like 50 to 70 winners, that like mid-tier golfer who is never like the guy who can't close, just have more wins. Maybe Xander or Cantlay get an early win where they never have before. So just like type of things like that. Where we're getting like a Frenchman winning on the PGA Tour. Like, what are we doing here? Nick Dunlap winning after like partying with his friends in college the week before. What are we doing here? Guys who have had guts losing, like Sam Burns, like never showed that type of poor golf down the stretch. I mean, it happens to everyone, but still, it just I don't know if there's a real explanation of it. I guess if there's anything different this year compared to last year, it's all of the guys leaving for live, and we really have a new PGA Tour uh, crop, I guess. So I think I would go with that, but it's just a crazy thing we're seeing thus far.
If you had to rank the four winners from the ones that, like, number one shocks you the most, and fourth, obviously shocking, but not quite as shocking, what's the order of the four at this point for you?
I think it's a toss up between the last 2 weeks because, like, I mean, you are the same way. Like, we know how DP World Tour, European Tour golfers are. Like, it's just a survival of the fittest, the last man standing, the guy who makes the least mistakes. And not that Pavone didn't make mistakes, but he looked good, like good
Yeah.
enough, I would say. And there was just guys. So between that and Dunlap, like I would say no, neither of those guys had a chance on the weekend. I'm like Pavone, no chance. Dunlap, yeah, like good luck. Like I was with my friend at the Amex. He was like, "Yo, Dunlap's like 75-1 right now, making a charge. Like birdied 3 straight on Saturday." I'm like, "Dude, you're wasting your money. Like he's not gonna win. He's a college kid." Like hand up, I was wrong, but we've never seen like we see guys flash on Saturday all the time. We see a random Euro come up the leaderboard when he plays all the time. Like it happens, but those two I think are just so outlandish and random. So it's a toss up between the last 2 weeks. I don't know if I could pick one. What about you?
Yeah. For me, I'm going, yeah, Pavone, the just craziest, just because the experience of betting the DP World Tour for the last couple of years. And he's a
Right.
guy who's always in the 50 to 80-1 range. And maybe every now and then, if it's a really weak field, he bumps up into the 30 to 40 range. He's a guy, from time to time, he'll get hot. His ball striking stats will look good, and you'll bet him, and he'll miss the cut, and he'll never even sniff victory. Like, I think I've probably bet him
Right.
20 times on the DP World Tour. He's never even come close to winning. So for him to finish the job down the stretch at a course where if you're not driving in the fairway, you're looking at bogey, and he was just found a way to hit that fade and find the short grass, and
Yeah.
it obviously popped a lot on the greens. I think Dunlap, obviously surprising. Like, I can't sit here and say that the first amateur winning in 25 years is not surprising, but it's the Amex. Dunlap's obviously been a quality player at every level that he's been at. So like, if you told me Dunlap wins before the tournament starts, I go, oh, that's crazy, but it wouldn't like blow my mind in the way that Pavone did. Grayson
You're right. You're
Murray,
right.
it's the Sony. Like, he was winning on the Corn Ferry level. Like, he's a solid enough player. I think that kind of makes sense. And then I'm still shocked by Chris Kirk at Century. Like, just a guy who never even crossed my mind with like the style of play at
Right.
Century. So he's up
Same.
there for me as a shocker. But yeah, Pavone takes the cake for me. And we always try to take some takeaways, from tournaments, regardless of how our bets do or things like that. Two guys. One of them is your guy. Thomas Dietrich. What's the post assessment of Dietrich and Jaeger? Dietrich, obviously, I don't think he's really been in that position. He was up there at the Sanderson a couple years ago, but this is obviously a bigger event. And then Jaeger, a guy who has just been playing so consistent over the last 6 months to a year, but really had, we wrote him up and we talked about him like he makes sense, but he never challenges at the top of the leaderboard. I thought he looked pretty good over the weekend considering the circumstances, but he ends up falling short. So, like, how are you thinking about Dietrich and Jaeger going forward?
Yeah, I think the last time we saw Dietrich like legitimately like in the mix across the globe was the Soudal Open in Belgium, like his home game classic for Dietrich. And then he didn't quite erupt like he did yesterday, but he finished like T7, like didn't even make a top 5. And Dietrich finishing T20 after legitimately being in the mix, legitimately like he had the lead on 8. Did he have the lead on 18 before he went in the water?
Yeah, one shot lead, I think.
So on Saturday, when he went in the water, had the lead, and then just a non-factor in the latter half of Sunday. Didn't even like, and that's just so Thomas Dietrich. Once he sniffs the leaderboard, he just can't do it. But like we always say, like these reps are good, but it's copy paste every single time Thomas Dietrich gets in contention. It's like legitimately the same thing since the last time he was really in it down the stretch was his battle with Minwoo Lee, I think, in the Scottish Open. I could be wrong. There could have been another tournament, but that's the last time I remember off the top of my head where he was in the mix over the last 3 holes. And like, he's a guy you see on the range and you're like, this guy's
yeah. I mean, some of the drives and like 3 woods that he hit into the greens on some of those par 5s were just insane. And even Dottie was out there like, no, this guy stripes it. But at this point, how many times can this happen before it's just like it's not going to happen for him? And to your point, like, yeah, usually reps are good. And I think I would put Jaeger in the category of like, those are good reps for Jaeger just because like he hasn't been there. And I thought he played
that was very new for Jaeger.
But for Dietrich, how many, like, at some point the reps actually become bad because like just so much negativity gets ingrained. And yeah, he, for me, obviously a talented player. I think this is, these types of, it's nice to see him pop on a course that makes sense for him with his driving and his distance and his ability to scramble pretty well as well. But like at this point, we're getting to the point where a Dietrich went on the PGA Tour seems almost unfathomable.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the par 5 scoring on Thursday, Friday, to Saturday, Sunday. It's kind of a joke, but he really struggles on par 5s down the stretch and like in important spots. Like you look at a Dietrich scorecard, it's 4 under on a tough course, and he'll birdie 5 par 4s and have a bogey somewhere else, and even on the par 5s. Like you're at this level, you cannot do that. And Thursday, Friday, he was birdieing all the par 5s. Friday, Saturday, yeah, he was not doing well in the par 5. So it's kind of a weird thing that I've noticed over the last few seasons with Thomas Dietrich. Definitely, if you're a Thomas Dietrich guy or just want to look into him, keep an eye on the par 5 scoring.
You're on the record. The par 5 scoring, when Dietrich gets it figured out, he'll pop. And he had, like you said, he had it figured out there for a couple of days. We were texting and joking that he's got it figured out. He ended up not having it figured out there, especially on 18 on Saturday. And then the other European who was up there, our boy, a player that a couple years ago I've projected as a future #1 player in the world. I'm feeling pretty good about that at this point. Nicolai Højgaard played excellent. I texted you guys on Sunday and kind of said he's just been 3rd place the whole weekend. He wasn't going up. He wasn't going down. He was just hanging in there. And that speaks to his experience. Obviously a winner multiple times on the DP World Tour, won a big event there, the Tour Championship in November. And just that ability in a course like this, you just got to hang in there, see what happens. And it almost worked out for him. Obviously went down 18 with a great chance. If Pavone doesn't make that putt, he's going to a playoff. So Højgaard, to me, set for a big year on the PGA Tour, set for a big career on the PGA Tour. And I think it was nice to see him kind of hang in there and just look super steady. Of all the players up there, obviously Pavone takes the cake as the most steady because he won, but Nicolai just never seemed rattled by the moment and looked pretty confident.
No, never. He looked comfortable the whole time, looked like he's been there before, even though he hasn't. And he's a guy who's just so talented. You and I both love Nicolai, guy who gains across the board, like week in, week out. He doesn't, obviously those courses he performs better at, but he can play at any golf course. So yeah, I'm very happy with how it went for Nicolai week 1. So yeah, I agree with you.
Moving on to Pebble. This is a place I believe you have won 3 straight years. Is that correct? Would that be Burger, Hoagie, and Roast, 3 in a row for you?
Yeah, I got that up there for a reason. Pebble is my spot. For some reason, I just got lucky with this event. Hit the winner last 3 years. Berger, Hoagie, Rose. Let's hopefully can make it 4 straight. Yeah, and it's nothing I change week in, week out on a handicapping standpoint. Look at the course, assess the guys, and roll through numbers. And so yeah, let's do it again. 4 straight. I'm gonna be looking at each week. There's a one key stat higher than others, and I'll ask you this when we get there. But I'm really high on strokes gained approach this week. Just not really driving accuracy. I'm just diving into approach, precision, and then around the green play. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think that is the story at Pebble. I mean, you go on vincerix.com, obviously go check out the website. We got the models and the articles. Matt writes up it's about 30, 40, 50 golfers a week at this point that you're putting thoughts out there for. I'm writing up a lot of golfers. So I think at this point, we're covering a good chunk of the field. So if you want just a quick way to go and kind of see everybody, we got that now on the side. We got some good things coming soon. But yeah, just looking at the historical winners, we can look back to 2010 here and look at the stats off the tee. The average per round score is just 0.27 strokes off of the tee. And I agree with you that like accuracy gets made out to be the thing at Pebble. And then you look just like one player since 2011 has been top 20 in the field in driving accuracy on the week. Like it just doesn't matter that much.
It doesn't matter.
But then, the spike approach, I think you got to be solid around the green. I don't think you need to be spectacular, but you got to be able
Especially
to
Especially this week, you might be able to be a little bit, which I'm sure you'll get into. It's the weather, but I think I'm going to dive in a little bit more around the green than a normal Pebble year.
Yeah, and I guess we can go to that right now. Obviously, putting on the POA is going to be important here. I was looking yesterday back to 2012. Every winner here has had a positive putting round on these, or positive putting tournament on these greens before winning. So like having that experience of putting these greens has been useful. And to the point on the weather, like I do think it makes sense to start there just because I wrote up yesterday that first of all, we've only got the Pro-Am for 2 of the days versus 3 of the days. So we're going to be able to see pin positions at Pebble on Saturday and Sunday that maybe they wouldn't be able to bring out because of the Pro-Am. So we get an extra day of tough pin positions, plus the weather being so soft. I mean, it's been raining there forever. It's supposed to rain this week. Like they're going to have to put the pins on ridges and protect them as much as they can to keep it from being an absolute just bullseye fest. So I think we do see tougher pin positions. And I guess to your point, is that part of where you're coming from on the around the greens standpoint, be maybe a little bit more?
Yeah, just like, and just I know it's usually always windy there, but throwing wind with rain, it just overall, I know rain makes things softer, makes things a little easier, but on the coast, I wouldn't really want rain to be a thing. Could be swirling, could be wet, could be ugly. So I just think overall it will play tougher, more greens missed than usual, obviously on these small greens. So I'm just going to strokes gain approach, strokes gain around the green, scrambling, stuff like that. Just key in on those 3 things.
Yeah, and I think I wrote this up too, that you watch enough golf. We've got the featured groups on all the time. We've got the main feed even on the weekend. Like wet and cold. There could be no wind, and I think it makes PGA Tour players play worse than any other conditions. Like it could be 30 miles an hour wind, but the weather's nice, and they're like out there, they're chilling, they're having a good time. These guys despise these conditions. Like this is not what they play in. They all live in Arizona, they all live in Florida. Like they don't mess around with playing in 50 degrees and rain. And that's why it was a joke. But like I tweeted out model this week: 50% strokes gained positive attitude, 50% strokes gained British, because like at the end of the day, there's going to be half the field this week who. You combine the Pro-Am with this weather, and these guys are just going to say, screw it. Like, I'm good. Like, I'll see you guys down at Riviera where the weather's going to be nice and things will be fun.
And they'd never be playing here if it wasn't elevated. They have to play X number amount of elevated events, schedule the way you got to schedule. They're kind of here because they have to be. So, yeah, I totally agree with some guys are over before they even tee it up, which could be used to your advantage. So, yeah, that's a great point that I also didn't think about.
And shout out, he's obviously not playing. Liv is starting this week, so he'll be over there. Lahiri, if Lahiri was playing this week, the conditions, he's a top 4, automatic, just lock of the century. And it's funny because I was looking up, like trying to think of tournaments where the weather's been really crappy over the last couple of years. And then Wells Fargo, you were there. TPC Avenel Farms, that version when Max won, the weather was terrible there. The guys up the leaderboard, Fitz. CY came young. We'll talk about him a little bit, but later it was up there. Keegan, a guy who I always love in the rain, and we'll have a look at this week just because I like him in bad conditions. And then that Players Championship, early in the year, 2 years ago now, when Cam Smith won, the weather was horrible there, and then there was Lahiri again. So he's the guy for bad weather. Unfortunately, won't be here today, but there's a lot of crossover on those leaderboards if you go and look at that, of guys who kind of pop in bad conditions. And those were a couple tournaments that came to my mind. Also, the Open this last year at Royal Liverpool, weather was bad. But I was trying to think of tournaments where the weather is bad to kind of go get a look at maybe those strokes gain positive attitude guys. And those were the ones that came to mind for me.
No, it is true, and like you nailed a few on the head. Like Fitz always pops up in these tough conditions, and they always ask him because everyone knows, and he always gives it like I don't know why I just play good here. Like, so yeah, that's definitely a real thing, and definitely keep those crossovers in mind, and we'll get to it for sure.
Yeah, and the Dunhill links, which is where Fitz won in those terrible conditions. Like the
Right.
weather there is usually horrific. I think the weather was so bad 2 years ago that Thomas Peters tweeted from the middle of the fairway at Kingsbarn saying, "What the hell are we doing out here to the DP World Tour?" So guys who have played well there, worth a look too. Guys like Noren has played well there. Fitz, Fleetwood, obviously
First round
now
leader.
going to live, but keep the eyes peeled on guys who have played well in those conditions. And let's get to the board. Top of the board pretty clear this week. Two guys kind of standing above the rest from an odds perspective. That's Rory McIlroy, and that is Scottie Scheffler. If there's a head-to-head between Rory and Scottie this week, both guys who don't have a ton of experience here. Rory's played this event once. Both guys played in the U.S. Open, I do believe, when they had it here a few years ago. But if there's just a head-to-head between Rory and Scottie, where are you going this week?
I'm probably going to go with Scottie just because of the strokes gain approach thing. I'm gonna victory lap fading him at the Amex, even though it was like a T17 finish, which is like one of his worst finishes in a while. But he looked a little tired out there. He looked like he had one of his like lesser performances in the strokes gain department, but he's still hitting the ball well with his irons, and I think that's so important at Pebble Beach. You don't have to be deadly accurate off the tee. It's going to take away Rory's best weapon, which is the driver. And in an iron contest, I would definitely take Scottie Scheffler over Rory McIlroy, at least in 2024, early in the year. So, if I got to go with one of them, similar odds, obviously, it's probably going to be Scottie. And so there's definitely going to be matchups between the two. I would definitely roll with Scottie if the odds are right.
Yeah, my worry with Scottie, I mean, this isn't rocket science by any stretch of the imagination. These bumpy POA greens, like even if he's throwing darts in there to 5-10 feet consistently, I don't know how many of those he's going to make. Like the putting just continues to be terrible every single week.
Yeah,
And then
no, it truthfully is.
And then we got Rory, who he was T9 at the Pebble U.S. Open here in 2019. Obviously, the setup a little bit different there than we'll get this week. He played the 2018 Pebble Beach Pro-Am and missed the cut. He looked good over in Dubai. He always looks good in Dubai.
Always looks good in Dubai.
Like it's auto that he's winning one of those events.
Yeah.
He definitely should have won both of them. Ends up only winning one of those. He's been playing unbelievable golf. We'll start off with a little bit of disagreement here. I think I'd lean Rory here. I think they're both going to play fine. Like give them top 20s. I don't think either of them win this tournament. I don't think this is the type of place where you would want to ride a single bullet with Rory or Scottie. Like neither of them are spike putters. Both of them do a lot of damage off the tee, and they're solid enough around the greens. I think to your point, they're around the green stuff. Like they're both going to be fine there, but neither players that I'm super excited about this week. But I think I'll give the slight edge to Rory just because of how sharp he has looked to start the year versus Scottie. Scottie's been fine, but give me Rory for the putting just ever so slightly between these two guys. Moving down to, I think Vic and Xander are kind of in the next slot here. And Xander's a guy who I actually really like this week. I think Xander, we know he can't win. I don't understand at this point. Like, what is going? Like,
it's crazy.
How can you be that consistent and play that well every single week? I mean, he hasn't missed a cut since he withdrew at the Century last year. He was T3 here in 2019 at the U.S. Open. Played great last week, but the putter, which has been hot, goes ice cold on greens that you'd think he'd be familiar with. Like, what's the lay of the land on Xander? Will he win again? Like, what's going on?
No, it's so weird because like in every single Xander start, there's you don't watch him and he's always on like the thing or tracking him. He doesn't like play bad golf. He's just like not there. Like he's just never in contention. And then you pop up, oh yeah, he finishes fourth again. With a rattle off 5 out of 6 birdies and just make his way towards the top of the leaderboard. Yes, he'll win again, but like figure it out. And I do like him this week, and in more of a DraftKings purposes, DFS purpose. I love the way I love how much he's playing. He's played a few events more than anyone, and that is a real thing. He's just got more reps under his belt, less rust to knock off, and he's played well. Although like they're not contention, they're backdoor finishes, it's still good golf being played. And look, if you're playing DraftKings, that's fine. You don't need to be in contention to finish third. So do I think Xander's going to win this week? No. Would I be shocked if Xander wins this week? Like maybe. But overall, I think he has a really high floor. I think he doesn't finish outside the top like 11 to 15, which is you can find a way to make money on that, whether that's a bet, DraftKings, anything, a positional matchup. But yeah, that's the state of the union on Xander is like hasn't changed much. And I do think it's going to be a big year for Xander because his quotes at the Century I keep going back to, and he's just seems so determined to because he knows what it is. Like he skipped the hero to focus on real events and to just get better. He wants to win. So I do think Xander will have a decent year, but the first 3 weeks, although it's amazing golf, it's same old Xander.
Yep, I think that's a perfect way to describe it. And I do really like him this week. And I think, yeah, finding some exposure to him that's not the outright market makes sense. He's number 2 in the model this week over on Vincerix. And I think it totally makes sense. Just the consistency. When we talk about some of the other top players, Scottie's got a weakness with the putter. Rory doesn't have really any weaknesses. I think Xander is right up there amongst the top few names as a guy who just doesn't have any weaknesses. He's going to gain off the tee. That's a piece too this year that's really jumped off is his driving has looked really nice. Like last year, middle of the year when he was finishing top 20 instead of top 10, it was the driving was off just a little bit. Everything's firing. He's putted really well here. Both appearances in 2017 and 2019, he gained a ton on these greens, so he's comfortable on them. I do worry a little bit that he didn't putt well last week, but he did gain a ton putting at Amex, and I feel like every time you see a guy gain a ton, he just doesn't make putts the next week. It's just how golf works. But in a matchup against Vic, where would we be leaning? Because I think Vic, he's obviously got the experience here. He was near favorite last year, finished T13, played well, obviously, as an amateur at the U.S. Open. He's lost strokes on approach at both the Hero and the Century. He's lost his coach. I think things are a little, he popped, obviously, to end the last year. I'm a little wait and see on Vic right now.
I totally agree. And I love Viktor Hovland on a yearly basis at Pebble Beach. Obviously won the US Am here. He plays here regularly. But like Viktor Hovland doesn't lose strokes on approach, and especially in back-to-back starts. I will say you can take whatever you want from the Hero strokes gained, whatever. The Century strokes gained, everyone lost strokes in weird spots. Everyone. If you look at the normal guys losing on approach usually don't. So I will take that with a grain of salt, but still, I kind of gave my parameter around 15-1 on Viktor Hovland. If he was in that area, I would throw it maybe, but it seems like 12-13 is what we're getting for now. Matchup, it's going to be so close. I think I'm going to have to go with, just based off the numbers, got to go with Xander, because if Victor's losing 2 strokes on approach, he's toast, and Xander's playing so much, he gives you that all 4-round equity. Like he'll play good till the end. I probably have to go Xander. I'm not sure what the odds are showing. Who's favored there? Maybe Xander by a small margin. I'm not really sure.
I would think Xander by a small margin.
What would you think on that matchup?
Yeah, no, I'm going Xander. I'd probably take him down to like a minus 130. Yeah, 130, 140 range. I also think, now we're just playing guessing games. But to your point, with Xander playing so consistently to start the year, we've only seen Vic at the Century. He's got this weird stuff going on with the coaches. I don't know how desperate he is to win the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am versus I think Xander is like, what the hell's going on here? I need to win one of these. So I think that's a piece of the puzzle as well that just, I would have more confidence with Xander coming into this week. But obviously Vic at Pebble Beach is a place that he knows well and has had plenty of success at. And then we kind of get into this next tier of players, and we'll talk through them kind of as a group. But before talking about them as a group, one guy is part of this group, Patrick Cantlay. You're the Patrick Cantlay whisperer. I would say you're the whisperer in the sense that you bet him all the time. I don't think it necessarily means he's going to play well or not. What in the world is going on with Cantlay and the swing? Because it looked good in round 1 at the Farmers, but there's been a couple of rounds recently where the left miss is in play for Pat. This was something that has always been in his repertoire, is just weeks where the iron play just completely goes off of the planet. But I thought he had cleaned it up. He had a level of consistency going over the last 6 months to a year that I thought he'd figure things out. But the stat lines from the Farmers and the Amex, both with the approach play and the putting and even the driving, went wrong last week with the left miss really in play. What's the state of the union on Patrick Cantlay?
Yeah, I don't know how you can back him. He's lost over 2 strokes ball striking in 2 consecutive starts for the first time in legitimately years. And in the second round of the Farmers, I was obviously watching closely because I had that Cantlay ticket, like I always do. And yeah, he was playing striping the ball off the tee. First 2 rounds, first 27 holes, absolutely striping the ball off the tee. And he was missing greens by an insane margin from the middle of the fairway. And I'm sure you were watching too, just pulling them, going long. Just and he was looking at LaCava, looking at himself like, do I have the wrong number? Like doing practice swings, like stuff that you and I would do on a like. I just don't understand how you could be Patrick Cantlay and like he was, I think, 2 for 14 greens in regulation or 3 for 14 greens in regulation on that Friday when he was basically like near the first round lead and just completely packed it in. Hasn't been in contention in a long since the St. Jude, I would say.
Yeah.
And even then, even the St. Jude before that, he wasn't really in contention much. Well, he was a little bit, but not as much as you would think he would. And it just doesn't seem right. It does not seem right because last year was the best ball striking season of his career. He's not known to be a generational ball striker outside of last year. He's a great putter with spike weeks. Is he going back to his normal self, which isn't bad, but it's not going to be 10-1, 12-1 every week. He can't be grouped in this top 5 range if he's going to be shaky. Like you got to
Yeah.
pick a path, Patrick Cantlay. Are you a lead or are you a good golfer? So I think he's trending back towards that good golfer last year. And although he didn't win last year, he was elite. So
Yeah. I
I don't
think
know.
we were texting about it before the round because we were watching on Friday. I had the live stream up or the main feed, and as I tweeted last week, I think
Alarm emojis.
the main feed at Tory with the mist and stuff going on is always fantastic. We'll probably get that at Pebble this week as well, but. He was hitting it left on the range, and you could just tell he was flummoxed. He was like, "I do not know what's
Yeah.
going on." He was getting pissed. He had the iPad out, with the stats and the videos. It wasn't making any sense. And then he gets out onto the course, and it's just horrific. And
Immediately.
that was after he shot 76 in the final round at Amex. So something's clearly amiss here. This is a guy who we saw in person at the Travelers cold chunk an iron into the water from like 10 feet in front of him. So the swing for Cantlay
Save
can just
bogey though.
he did. It was a great up and down. The swing can just go wrong for him. Now, with that being said, this is a place where he's had tons of success. T3, T4, the last 2 times he was here. He's got the experience. Nobody loves a pro-am more than Cantlay with his ability to hobnob with the elites. So he's the type of guy who's so robotic, I think, that like if he figures something out on the range here between today and Thursday, like he can get his ball striking back and play well this week. So I'm not going to have any action on him. I don't think I want to be involved, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him bounce back here and play a little bit better than he has been. But that's purely me going like Cantlay's the type of guy who can bounce back. You look at the stats, there's nothing right now to be too positive about. And so what I wanted to do was take these next 5 guys kind of on the board that I've got as Spieth, Cantlay, Max, Collin, and JT. I kind of bucketed those 5 guys as kind of the next crew on the board. And let's start with the least likely to win and work our way up to the most likely to win. I'll let you go first. Of those 5, the one who would surprise you the most to see them lifting the trophy.
I'm gonna go with you said Cantlay. No, you said Spieth, Thomas, Max, and who were the last 2?
Cantlay and Collin.
Cantlay and Collin. Okay. I would think the least likely to win out of that group is as crazy as it sounds, is probably Patrick Cantlay because like he's hitting the ball horrifically, and when he does play here, he plays here a lot, but it's in worse fields. So like you gotta take the course history with a grain of salt this week. This is the best field that we're seeing at Pebble ever. Second least likely, I'd probably go with Jordan because he's going to be so popular, plays here a lot, but very volatile, hasn't played the most golf, and he's played well. That's definitely a hot take. So people are going to be all over Jordan this week. I think I'll just skip to the top because you're splitting hairs. I think the top next 2 is probably Max number 1 to win, Collin number 2, and then I guess by default JT in the middle. Max didn't hit the ball great last week, and he was working on this weird like heel thing off the tee with trying to lift that. Did you hear them talking about that on the broadcast?
Yeah, briefly.
Yeah, he was trying to like worked on a new thing with his coach, and he was all over the planet with the driver, missing fairways, and he was pulling long irons too. The long irons were bad, which is what you need at Tour. That's why the strokes gain approach weren't great. But he gets to a golf course where he can hit a ton of middle irons, which he's great at, play out of these forced layup positions, and then just lean into that West Coast creativity around the greens. And then Collin off a missed cut was very popular last week. But I think this golf course sets up well for him. A ton of irons, extremely precise, little flop leg. He was clearly upset about missing the cut, and he wasn't by any means playing bad golf. He kind of just like missed it. He was what did he miss it by a stroke? Wasn't playing bad golf.
Yeah, he missed it. He also he was gonna make it, and then he hit it OB or into the hazard on 17, which was like crazy because he pulled it left, and obviously he never pulls it left, and he looked like super flummoxed by it. And the weird thing with the cut line at Tory was that like it was guys who were like nearing the cut line at like -4, -5. They were one shot in the positive direction from like being in the mix and one shot from missing the cut,
Exactly.
like down the stretch. So I agree with you that he didn't miss by much. My worry with Collin, and I guess my order for this would be, I'll probably agree with you, Cantlay last, just because like he doesn't really win. Like it's been a while since he was on those hot streaks of wins, so I don't really trust him to win at the moment. And just with the form that he's in, as we just talked about, I'd probably still go with Collin as the one who would surprise me the next most, just because I still think there's a spike putting element that I need to see here. Like, you need to be able to gain a stroke per round on the greens, and he did it at the Hero, but besides that, that's just not something that I trust Collin to be able to do. And then, I'll probably go Spieth. Like, he's going to be super popular here. We know the success that he's had. He's got a win. He's got a T3. He's got a second. He's an interesting one because he brings the short game to the table. The driving's been better. He putted great at the Century, like the best he's putted in a really long time at the Century, which was nice to see. But we need the spike approachability here. It's been a while since we've seen spike approach from Jordan. We have to go back to the Heritage, but the Heritage is another wedge heavy spot.
Yep.
And when you get a lot of wedges in your hand, that's where I trust Jordan to, like, even if he's not spike approach lately, you get the wedges, he can get kind of dialed in. So I'd like Jordan third there. And then I'll go Max first as well. Like, I really like Max this week. I haven't decided if I'm going to bet him. I think the 20-1 on Max makes tons of sense. Like, add Pebble to his list his list of West Coast wins. Like, I think he'll be excited to have the chance here. Him and Collin were both down there yesterday, or up at Pebble from Tory yesterday. So they both got up there and were playing together.
Really?
Yeah, because they both work with Mark Blackburn. So they were out there hitting or playing a practice round of Sama number 7. So they're both kind of focused, dialed in,
he plays here usually, and he plays well here.
Yeah.
And that's when you're talking about RBC, I'll make a few connections off of that. I bet Max at RBC. Obviously, he missed the cut last year, but I used it as a connection to why I wanted to bet him. He always plays well at Pebble. But also, I know I said this is a stronger field, but we saw at the RBC Heritage, it was elevated last year, had a ton of players who don't usually play there. It came down to the normal suspects, the guys who usually play well at the RBC Heritage. So I know we have the Scotties of the world, like the guys who don't usually play here. Are we going to get down to like a Victor Fitzpatrick duel, a Victor Fitz Spieth duel, just guys who always play here? Throw like Nick Taylor in there, just guys who always play this event in the leaderboard. Quite possibly, because there's definitely some nuance in this golf course.
Yep, totally. And to your point, T10, T14, T7 for Max here over his last 3 appearances. He's putted well in all of those appearances, as we'd expect. He putted pretty well last week at Farmers. He was terrible on the bent grass greens on the North Course. He was 3-putting like every hole.
Totally.
But you got back on the POA and things looked good for him. He's a player who I really like him when he gets a lot of wedges into his hands. He is 13th, I think. Let's see here. 12th in the field. Or 13th in procs 50 to 125 yards. Like, I love him with wedges in a hand. I love him in bad weather conditions. Obviously, he won that Wells Fargo in horrific conditions. He's just a guy who is going to go out there and grind. And then JT for me, he's not a guy that I ever bet. I am not a JT guy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not one of those saying like JT in the 20s, like this is the greatest thing that's ever happened. I need to liquidate my bank account and get on JT. But his stats going back to the Fortinet, look really,
His
really good.
results, yeah.
I mean, yeah, the stats and the results. 5th at Fortinet, went over to the Nedbank, finished 4th, where, of course, Max won, so another feather in the cap for Max there. 3rd at the Hero, then T3 at the Amex, obviously gaining across the board there and looking really good. For most of that round, a couple bad swings on the par 5s with the long irons cost him, but I don't think the long irons are going to be as much of an issue here, and those wedges where he's usually at his best but had been struggling for a while, they're looking a lot better. Never made the cut here, doesn't have the experience. That's probably why I'd still be somewhat surprised if he won, but I think JT is largely completely back now.
Yeah, JT looks really good. He definitely showed some nerves in that final round, even though it was against Nick Dunlap, but he hasn't been in that position for so long, and that just proved to show, like, ignorance is bliss. Nick Dunlap's never been in that spot, fearless, and did what he had to do, where JT, like, he felt the nerves, even though it's like he's done it so many times, like, fuck, am I supposed to be doing this? Like, this, is this right? I don't feel right here. But he's on the right path. I think he's a great play in DFS, a great positional bet. He could definitely find himself in the mix. Ton of wedges, ton of middle irons, great short game as well. I would not be surprised to see him like contend down the stretch, but I think he's a safe middle of these 5 names we've named.
Yep, totally agree. And motivation-wise, again, I think he's really focused.
He wants it.
He really wants it, and he's such a talented player that can be the difference. Like, it's you can play this guy cares, this guy doesn't care. Like, how's that impact his play? JT's one of those where, like, when he cares, when he gets focused in, it's a difference maker, and so I'm excited to see him play this week. And up next, instead of going just like down the board randomly, I've set up some hypothetical 3-ball matchups with the guys in the kind of the same range. Obviously, we don't know exactly what these odds would be, so let's just treat it as if they were the same odds. Mm-hmm. I'm going to list off 3 players, and you tell me who you think finishes highest, and if you've got any other takes on the other players, then fire them away. But let's start with Fitzpatrick. We know he can handle these conditions. He's been here before. Lud making his debut. Ludwig Aubert played pretty well last week. Some of the most horrific putting I've ever seen in my entire life. That was brutal. And then a guy who just faded down the stretch at the Amex, but a guy who I like when he gets a lot of wedges in his hands. He's obviously a good putter. Off the tee issues won't be a problem for him. Sam Burns, give me your take between Fitz, Lud, and Sam Burns.
I'll go in that exact order. I think Fitz wins, Ludwig in the middle, and Burns down the stretch. Looking at Sam Burns' stat profile from the Amex, I had a Sam Burns 35-1 ticket. Lucky to be there. He did not hit the ball well. He truthfully did not. Kind of lucked his way into that 70-hole lead, and it blew up down the stretch. So Matt Fitzpatrick plays here a lot, loves this golf course, and I love the golf course for him. I know he has the newfound game of elite driver, but at his core, he's a solid wedger and a great around the green, great scrambler, and that's what you need at Pebble Beach. And then Ludwig, we've seen him do it. I like I said, I was super excited to see Ludwig at Torrey Pines. It was on paper the best golf course for him, and had every chance to win that golf tournament. I know he wasn't contending down the stretch, but he surely has the game and could have won that golf tournament, and no one would have been surprised. I was definitely nervous to pull the trigger on whatever I bet him at last week, but I was happy with the way he performed. Got me a T10, so that was awesome for Ludwig. And we're getting him at a golf course where he's played well in these conditions before with a ton of wedges. So wouldn't be surprised to see him. He's just an uber talent. But I want to go with Fitz. Loves it here, plays well here, has the game here. Ludwig, Sam Burns.
Yeah, I'll agree with that order. And I've had many takes about Ludwig. I was hardcore out on Ludwig when he first came out. I've kind of come around on him lately, and then
every other day it's back.
It's back and forth. I'll be honest. I can't decide how I feel about Ludwig, but I do. He just continues to play well on these short courses. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense because driving is his game, and places like Torrey is where he should be best. And obviously, he did hit the ball really well at Torrey. But the Omega European Masters is a wedge fest, and down the stretch there, he was up against Fitzpatrick. So, I like that crossover. Played well a couple weeks later at the BMW PGA, which is another wedge heavy course. And then obviously the RSM. And I think this is getting into the weeds a little bit. And obviously I haven't watched every shot that Ludwig's ever hit, but he just doesn't put spin on the ball, like backspin. Like, his ball just sits. Like, when he hit, like, it just stops wherever he hits it.
That's nuts.
And I think in these conditions, like, I want guys who, because they're going to put the pins on all these ridges and up on all these, plateaus to try to protect from, because if they put them in the middle of the greens, guys are going to shoot like 40 under par. You've got to be able to stop the ball without spin, especially with how wet it is, or you're going to be zipping back down the hill and you're going to end up 25 feet away with every other guy, and it's going to become a putting contest. Like guys who can hit without spin, those dead arm wedge shots that don't spin, JT. I really like. Yeah. And I think Ludwig, like his ball just stops wherever he hits it. And I think that's a positive for him this week. So that's my like in the weeds inside baseball take on Ludwig.
That's a true like Zhao right miss at the U.S. Open type deal. So yeah, I cannot wait to monitor Ludwig's spin rates.
Yeah, you get your eyes on the spin rates. When you see him, like when his ball says it's 17 feet away, go back and watch and see, did that spin to that point or does that exactly where it landed? All right, next 3-ball. Tommy Fleetwood, not to spoil anybody who watches this before BK, but that's BK's invented him this week. So if Tommy Fleetwood wins, Brian Kirshner wins the award for inventing him. So Tommy Fleetwood, Jason Day, and your boy Cam Young. How do you feel about those three?
Yeah, that's a great group. I'm going to go 1, Tommy Ladd, 2, Cam Young, and then 3, Jason Day. But I'm not hating on Jason Day at all. I tweeted out yesterday, his course history here is truthfully absurd, and it's one of the more underrated ones of the course horses that we know in the golf world. Just look at Jason Day's course history if you have the chance. I'm not going to run through it, but it is truthfully insane. Tommy, yeah, if you want to go over to actionnetwork.com, did in my early outrights article, Tommy Fleetwood was my pick, and I just think he has so many avenues for success. Whether that he can get scorching hot with his irons. He's obviously fairly accurate from time to time, but I don't think driving accuracy is as important as some people may say. But he can light up spike iron rounds for sure. And then if it does get difficult, he's got a phenomenal short game. And if we're seeing Matthew Pavone win, we're seeing Nick Dunlap win. It's about time Tommy gets a win on U.S. soil. So I like Tommy. I'm probably going to bet him at 40-1. And then Cam Young, I think he is a good bounce back candidate. If you're not a European Tour watcher, he kind of, I wouldn't say blew it, but he had every chance to beat Rory in Dubai, kind of showed no guts in very Cam Young fashion, but he has shown success on club down positional golf courses. So I'm down for Cam Young in a flat black position when no one is going to really want to touch him. So Cam Young, and then Jason Day, like I'm still high on. I still think he can perform well on, but I kind of like those other two. This is one of the strong. I like this 3-ball stronger than I like the last 3-ball. So Jason Day, I'm not low on, but I think I like the other two better.
Yeah, Day is a pure course history play. If you like Day, it's because of the course history. Like his stats have not been very good for a long time now. But another guy who he was T2 at the Open, and it's not like a great course fit, but I actually think the Hoy Lake fit just because of how the weather was, and like it is a shorter course, and there's a lot of short irons there. Like isn't bad. Obviously, it was T2 there. I'm gonna officially take a stance of I'm out on Tommy this week. I'm not saying he's gonna play bad, but I think I would be stunned if he actually wins.
No chance.
Close to no chance. Like I see it. I totally see the path. Like it's not that I don't think it makes sense. It's just I don't think he can gain enough putting, and I don't think he can win. He can definitely light up the approach numbers, and I do love him on these short positional courses. Like I was on him at in Canada, similar type of course. Like totally makes sense. He plays good at Heritage. I'm down for Tommy from the sense that like it makes sense, but I do not think he can win. I don't think any of these guys can win. I'd probably go the same order as you. I'm not a CY guy by any stretch of the imagination, but you get him on these positional courses and sometimes he pops. So I think your assessment there mirrors mine, minus the fact that I'm removing Tommy from the winning contention. Next up, your guy, Russ Henley. Ben On, who continues to just play great. His stats are unbelievable. He's just gaining across the board every single week. And Tom Kim.
Oh, I like this one. I probably will go with Russ, number 1. He hit the ball poorly at the Century, I believe, but he found something the week after at the Sony. He's not scorching with his irons, but he at the core, Russell Henley is a top 5, top 10 approach player on the tour, and maybe even better in this field. And course fit wise, it makes a ton of sense. Doesn't have amazing course history by any means, but Russell Henley, I think, is going to be he's playing good golf, at least in the moment. Okay. And then Ben On versus Tom Kim is definitely a tough one because Benny's been playing really good. I do think his best weapon is that driver. He is as long and straight as they come. Like you look at some of Ben On's shot. Yeah. Like you look at some of Ben On's shot trackers, and literally his swing. His swing has became one of my favorites to watch. Like he holds his finish. It's
it's
very
like
impressive.
he hits driver on every hole. He doesn't care. It does, and that's why I kind of like him this week, just because like there's holes where you shouldn't hit driver, but he's just gonna hit them, and they're gonna go down the middle, and like he's gonna have these short. His off the tee numbers are crazy. Yeah,
I might have to go with Ben on over Tom Kim because Tom Kim, like he does great on positional. I mean accuracy, like short golf courses, but his putter's been so hit or miss, and it's been more the miss than it has been hit. So I think I'm gonna go with Ben on, just playing better golf at the moment. And I'm not a Tom Kim guy at all. I really like. I don't know. His path seems to be so putter reliant, even though he does have those spike iron weeks in him. And I don't know. I'm not with Tom Kim. I'm gonna go Russ, Benny, then Tom Kim. Although Benny does have a high ceiling, I think.
I'm pretty high on this week. Like I think I'll take him. I'll go on Henley TK here, just because like it's not. I don't understand how he does it. Like that was the thing at Sony. Like he made all the sense in the world at Sony, but he also didn't make sense because it's not the type of course where you would expect. I like him where it's tee to green. Like he let his ball striking shine through, but. Going back to the Scottish, he was T3 at Scottish. We know the weather's never good at the Scottish. He played good there. T23 at the Open. T2 at Wyndham. Obviously, Wyndham, a great kind of crossover track, wedge-heavy type of place. Then he got suspended, and so we didn't see him in the fall, but comes back 4th at Century, T2 at Sony. Was T16 here in 2019 at the U.S. Open, and T37 at the last year's he's just good at golf. Like he's not one of those. He's like you can't point to what he's great at. What he's not. Obviously, driving is what he's great at, but the rest of the stat line is kind of just average. He's figured his
putter out over the last year.
But he's a good player.
I like that.
I think in the 50 to 1 range. I haven't made any bets yet, but I'm kind of interested by him. Next up, these guys I definitely think belong together in any conversation this week. JT Poston, Eric Cole, and Bo West Coast Hostler. These guys to me kind of all are the same, where they probably won't win, but they'll be kind of popular. They're in like the 60 to 80 to 1 range. Poston, Cole, Hostler.
I think it's a true toss-up. I am like the anti-Eric Cole guy. I do not like Eric Cole, but if there is a golf course for Eric Cole, I think it is here. He's you might as well have me driving the golf ball for him because it's just pathetic with him with the driver. But that's gonna get minimized this week. He's gonna be able to lay up to the same spots as the rest of the field, hitting casual drivers or hitting long irons off tees, woods off tees, and strokes gained got engaged here. So the vibes are high.
Positive attitude. Strokes gained positive attitude. Cole has a positive attitude. He always looks.
Cole has a great attitude and a great bounce back after he missed the cut. Everyone loves riding Cole. I think the vibes are a little bit off of him because he was popular in the fall, popular at the Sony. If he is like going under the radar, I think he can definitely find his way up the leaderboard at what's his like high 7K range. Is he around that area? Like 50 to 7 to 1. I'm not exactly sure what his odds are. I think he's a great positional bet, great DraftKings play, can backdoor anything if you need him to. And then Poston, gonna be popular. It's a close second because I do like Poston here as well. And then who was the last guy again?
Bo.
You said Bo. Yeah, Bo always plays well here, but the field is much stronger. So played well at Torrey Pines. I am out on Bo.
Hold on, let me get Poston really quick. Poston.
Yeah, what's Poston?
He's been here twice, 2017, 2018, T66, T68. I don't think he's obviously playing a lot better golf now than he was then. He makes all the sense in the world on paper. But I'm actually going to go Cole. I really like Cole this week. I might bet Cole. Like this is the type. Cole to me reminds me of Jaeger last week, where like Jaeger made all the sense in the world last week, but you're just like, it's Jaeger. Like, can he do it? But Jaeger was a guy who throughout the fall was like in the 25 to 35 range. Like, literally. And then he bounced out to 80. Nobody bets Jaeger and he almost wins the tournament. I think Cole kind of falls in that similar boat where he's been in the 30 range for a long time now. He gets bumped out to like the 60 to 70s. And he could definitely contend and give you a sweat. And then
I really don't think he can win though. Like I really don't. But you can't. I don't think we can say that anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And like when we were texting the group chat, Brian might have said, or you may have said, like this guy can't win. I was gonna say, but I was like doing something else. I don't even think we can say X guy can't win anymore. Just what happened the first 4 months of the year. Like anyone could win.
I agree, and I think like there's no reason this week why you couldn't build a card that starts at 50 to 1 and get like 10 guys and guarantee yourself a sweat from some like long odds guy. Like this course is inherently gives out crazy kind of outcomes because it's kind of open to any style of play. So I'll go Cole, Hostler, Poston. For whatever the model loves Poston this week, he's on paper makes sense. But I think just given the POA, I just trust Bo on the POA, and I don't know if I trust Posty out west very much. I'm going to wait till we get back to Florida to be riding with Posty. Here's one that I think is pretty tough because I kind of like all of these guys for different reasons. Keegan, Harman, Teagues. Okay, somehow all of the and like surprising numbers on all these guys. I think they're all good bets at the 70, 80 to 1 that I'm surprised that they're this far down the board.
Yeah, I think Theegala is a great bounce back candidate, but I'm gonna go with Harman because if you had any sense of I like Harman at the Sony, you gotta just hold on to it. I know it didn't really come to fruition, and he doesn't have the best course history here either. But Sony here both make so much sense for Brian Harman. So I think he's a better golfer now than he has been in an X amount of years ago. So I'm gonna go with Harman there. And you said Keegan and Thiegs. Keegan, like you said, loves the bad weather. But Theegala, the issue with Theegala is when driving it in the fairway is a premium. Like you need to do it because he had rounds and holes at the Torrey Pines where he was making in the fairway birdie. Like he can, but
his putting that together for 70 holes. I don't know how he did it because it felt like he was in the rough every hole. His driving stats are pretty good. He gained he was at 1.8 in the second round and 1.7. Like it's streaky, but every now and then he just starts striping it.
The issue was Wednesday. He was playing. It was on the North course too, and he was just playing from all over the place. That's kind of what got him on the wrong path to start at the gates. But like it's super streaky, but if it's good, he can perform anywhere in the world. But that's going to be taken out of his hand this week. He's going to be hitting that orange long iron that he loves more than anything in the world on a ton of holes, and then playing out of the fairway. So, and when he can lean into that creativity, the good wedge play. But I'm gonna ride with my guy Harman. I'm gonna go Harman, Thiegs, Keeks. But like you said, these are good matchups. I can see any outcome, and I do like Keegan, but I'm gonna have to rank him third.
I was on Teagues last week. I was on him at the Century. Obviously, one of those went better than the other. I don't think he played that bad last week. The North course really screwed him. Like you said, he played terrible on the North. He was like +3 at one point on the North course. Ended up battling back. He was even on Friday around 3. He started. I was like kind of like, oh, Teagues might be able to sneak his way back to like a -7 going into the final round and like have a look at it. He played here in 2022. Lost in every strokes gain category. He missed the Monday cut, or like they did a second cut or something. I don't know what's going on here. The stats don't really make sense. But Harman, I do like Teagues just because like he can spike everywhere and the driving's not going to impact him. Harman has played here a few times. Nothing special. He looked pretty. He ended up T70 at the Dubai Desert Classic, but I watched him for a little bit. He looked pretty good. I thought he seemed fine. But I don't know if he was
there for. I think he was there for the vibes, not to win.
Yeah, he was there to check out Dubai, probably for the first time in his life. I can't imagine Brian Harman.
He did say that actually.
It was okay.
He was like, yeah, he was excited to see Dubai.
And then Keegan, I like Keegan this week. I think I'll go Keegan, Teagues, Harman here. Keegan continues to play well. He was T15 here way back in the day. Like at least he's been here once and been around this place. But we just saw him on a wedge heavy course at Sony. He played really good. I like him in these conditions. I've already bet him twice this year. I bet him at Century. He didn't do anything. Then I didn't bet him at Sony. He looked good. Then I bet him at Farmers and he was like completely average. And then I just think he makes sense this week. I don't know why Travelers is a great comp here. You get a ton of wedges at Travelers. It was wet there at Travelers too. Like we know he can win. I just think you look at him versus like some of these guys higher up on the odds board. At this point, I know BK he was saying that he doesn't think Keegan can win, but like that's 2 wins for Keegan in the last year on somewhat. Like he can win. He was just right there at Sony. I like Keegan to bounce back. I don't know if I'm going to bet him, but I like Keegan. Final one. And I want to talk about one of these guys specifically because I think he's an interesting candidate this week. Denny, your boy. Rose, defending champion, also your boy. And Hideki.
It's a great one. I do like Denny this week. I'm going to have to go with Hideki number 1. Anytime you're getting Hideki in a course where iron game is number 1 and he's showed something at least of late, he's a generational iron player. I'm going to go with Hideki. I know Hideki in Pebble Beach. Has he even played here? I don't think he has.
He was here at the U.S. Open in 2019. He actually gained strokes putting. I mean, he did
Pro-Am though.
Yeah, he's not played the Pro-Am. Nope. He
Okay,
did
that's what
light
I
up the
thought.
approach figures at the US Open. I was on Hideki last week. He made that hole in one. That was sick. He was hitting the ball really, really well. He was streaky with the driver. Like the driver was hit and miss. His accuracy with the driver was horrible. Obviously, that's not going to be as much of a problem this week. His short
Yeah.
game, always sick. Like Hideki's always going to bring you the short game. But his putter, he 3-putted 6 holes in a row, or 5 out of 6 holes in a row on the back 9 on Friday. He made 6 bogeys in a row. He ended up finishing T13. Like he could have
That's
won.
insane. That is true. That's like,
No,
what the hell?
no, I was tracking
Holy
him,
shit.
and he was hitting the green on every hole. It was like 45 feet, and next thing I know, I'd open it back up, and it was bogey. He literally 3-putted 5 out of 6 holes on the back 9. He bogeyed, I think, 11 through 15 or something like that, maybe 10 through 15, and he played fine the rest of the time. The putter is ice cold, but yeah, I think he's healthy again. Like I think he
Yeah.
is back to his health, which when he's healthy, you can always expect good things from him.
I'm
And
still nervous with that driver though, but like you said, it's not the most important here because when he does that full last driver swing, he's missing it in both ways, and
Yep.
you're not going to really going to need that here. Ton of long irons, maybe off the tee, ton of wedges. I do like Hideki. I did write him that I was going to take a further look, and then Denny, my guy, like you said. He finally has been showing something with the iron game. I know it wasn't great in his last start, but the previous starts before that, it's been okay, and that's the X factor for Denny. He's played well here in his career before, so I do like Denny. I know the fields are a lot worse, and I've been betting Denny more than I probably should the last few months. Maybe one more chance. They're gonna have to do a deeper dive, and then Rose. I think I'm gonna rank third. Won here last year, but hasn't really looked great of late. Middling finishes over his last few starts, and the ball, he was hitting the ball a lot better this time last year coming to the event than he is this year.
I got a Denny stat for you that kind of blew my mind.
Sure.
On golf.and we've got the course history stuff there. We've got kind of all the stats. Denny's played 14 rounds at the Pebble Beach AT&T Pro-Am. He's 1-putted 49.4% of the greens. Now, some of
that's
that's
a bad thing, I think.
Some of that has to probably do like he's scrambling, he's like getting up and down. But the next closest player is SH Kim, who's only played 4 rounds. He's 1-putted 45% of the time. So like to be that consistent 1-putting over that many rounds is absolutely insane. Jason Day, another guy who's putted well here. Keith Mitchell, Teagues is up there. Seamus. But yeah, I think for me, Rose last, just defending champion, not playing amazing golf right now. I like Denny this week. I'll probably go Denny, Hideki, Rose there. But Hideki, I don't think can win. Hideki, though, a solid top 20 type of play. Like he just plays consistently, and Hideki always brings his A. Like Hideki always tries, unless he's hurt and like has to withdraw. You know, Hideki is going to grind.
He's literally. I've watched a lot of golf the last few years. I can remember one time he didn't try, and it was like the Valero when he was in the field for no reason, and he like finished like dead last. But yeah, Hideki will try always.
And that is quickly. Actually, first before talking to just a few guys in the hundreds range, Nick Dunlap. What do you expect from the youngster making his debut this week? I kind of like him. I think he's going to be riding the wave of what happened a couple weeks ago. He's really good with his wedges. He's a great putter. Driving like accuracy is one of his issues. It seemed like, but I expect him to play well this week.
Ton of media, probably maybe featured group. We think.
I hope so. I hope it's my ideal featured group is Ludwig and Dunlap in the youngster featured group.
That'd be sick. He's going to face a ton of media. I'm definitely interested to see how he bounces back. Have no overwhelming thoughts, no bad thoughts, no good thoughts. Probably won't have any exposure to him in any way. Just going to wait and see. I hope he does well, though. It's going to be a fun week for Dunlap. 4 full guaranteed rounds, so.
I'm going to just give you a few names that jumped out to me in like the 150-ish range, and you just give me could mix or no chance to mix.
Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna start with your boy Matt McNeely.
No chance to mix. $6,200 on DraftKings might be 100%
owned. Fair. Adam Schenk, Colonial Comp, good in these type of conditions.
Colonial Comp, JT Poston Comp could mix. If we say JT Poston can mix, Adam Schenk can mix.
Yep. And at 150 to 1, like, Schenk he's like mixed before, so I think that's fair. This one doesn't make any sense to me. Griot. Why is Griot 150 to 1? Griot Colonial Comp. I might just bet
I'm gonna Venmo you after the show. I wrote up. I was very strong on Griot in my write up. 100% could mix.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look because he's 150 on 365, and I don't actually have 365. I just have them pulled up right now, so we may have to find an alternative betting source. But 150 on Griot makes you bet. Just bet it. Like he could
Yeah.
finish last place, and that's a good bet because there's the Colonial comp here. We've got Rose as a Colonial winner, Berger as a Colonial winner, Griot's a Colonial winner. He played fine last week. Like he played pretty good. He had a couple of
He
wayward.
was 200 at the Century, and that's like a better field.
Yeah, no, Griot. Bet Griot. Kurt Kitayama played good here last year.
I'm gonna go with Can't Mix. What was his finish? His finish last year ended up being what, like T?
Yeah, it was bad.
30 something.
It was like down the board.
He
faded
punted down the stretch. It's a not strong Can't Mix, but it's not a strong Can't Mix.
All right, and then a few guys maybe a little better odds. What's the deal with Monty? Is he getting better at golf? Is he a good golfer now, or
I think he's getting better at golf, but I think it's just a case of the best players are like leaving the PGA Tour, so Monty's just like, okay, like I'm just still Monty. Everyone else is getting worse, coming back to my level. He did hold out for Eagle last week though, so Can't Mix.
If you could only have one of these guys,
Fuck.
Bez, Hoagie, Proj, Andy Putz, Glover.
I would say Glover or Andy Putz because strokes gained Pepperdine. You got to throw that into. But Glover, just a ton of I talked about the approach stat, and approach stat is huge. I'll go with Glover in a spot where no one wants to use him. I think there's still some juice to squeeze out of him. But Hoagie loves it here, and this is also his favorite course. I'm going to change my answer to Hoagie.
Hoagie striped it last week at Tour. He was second in the field in fairway proximity. He played fine. I bet him last week. He never really did anything special, but he didn't do anything bad. And obviously, if you can play good at Farmers, you come back to a spot where you're a winner. I like Hoagie. Yeah. What odds would Malnati have to be on a top 20 for you to pull the trigger on Peter?
Yeah, he does love it here. I saw this morning he was like 8,000 to 1. His top 20 odds. What, 60 to 1? Is that what we're saying?
He's 750 to 1 to win. Let me see what he is to finish in the top 20.
Or I might have said 8,000. I meant 800.
What is going on here? Finishes.
He's been really bad. He hasn't made a cut in like forever.
I'm on the Bahrain Championship. Any early leans with the Bahrain Championship? Do you know anything about it?
Zero. Is Rasmus playing?
Yeah, Erasmus is playing. He's trying to rack up as many points as possible so that he can get back up. He can come on over to he will be on the PGA Tour next year, 100% guarantee. Like his odds to finish in position on the DP this year, it's like minus 40,000. Like he will be on the PGA Tour next year without a doubt. All right, top 20 on Malnati. Yeah, plus 850. Not bettable.
That's a horrible odds.
Yeah, that's horrible.
So, like, legitimately, can I bet the no?
There needs to be a no on that. Webb Simpson's in the field, apparently. Hubbard's a guy. I think Hubbard's interesting. Homo subs. Anyone we haven't talked about that you want to give a shout out so that we can Vic
real
clap
quick?
if
$6,000 on DraftKings, and I want to hear your thoughts. $6,000 on DraftKings. Seamus Power.
Shamey
has won this event 3 times.
He of course won this event famously the year that Hoagie won. He was given the trophy after the second round because it was such a guaranteed that he'd go low at Monterey. T9, T15 last couple of years. He drove it nice. It was only one round of stats, but God, his stats are.
He lost it. I don't know what he lost. He lost it.
His putting is. I mean, he's lost infinity strokes putting the last 2 events. His approach is messed up. Always good scrambler. Like, Seamus is going to get around the greens. He'll probably chip one in, do something there. But no, I'm going to have to say I'm out on Shamey. I get the course history angle, but I genuinely think there's something wrong with his game. He could pop. I could see him having one good round, maybe a showdown play. Like round 3 is going to be like T47 and he shoots like 64 or something. But no, quick look of the stats. I'm going to have to say I'm out on Shamey this week.
Probably have to agree.
All right, well, that's an hour. That's a deep dive into a lot going on there at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. We'll have more writing on the site a little bit later this week. We'll have your outright card and your write-up there. I know we can also find you at Action Network and elsewhere on Twitter. I'm sure everybody follows you, but if you don't, it's Matt. It's _ Gannon, right? On
Yeah,
Twitter?
_ Gannon _
Beautiful. All right. Well, look forward to this event. Should be good. Like I said, I'm hoping for a Ludwig Dunlap featured group. That seems like an absolute no-brainer from the tour, which means they probably won't do it. But that seems like a slam dunk. What, you got a featured group you're hoping to see?
I want to see what Vic's up to. So definitely, I want to see Vic out there.
Maybe a Vic with like a Scottie or something like that would be pretty nice. See them. I want a featured group all 18 on Spyglass. Like, I've never seen all 18 on Spyglass, but every time when they like pan over and they're like, here's a guy over at Spyglass, it always looks super sick. So I hope we get to see every hole at Spyglass.
Yeah, no more Monterey. So definitely hope they can do something like that.
All right, Matt. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next week for Waste Management.
Yes, sir.